Oh, did you miss us? Yes, it's been a long time, almost 4.5 minutes, but it's a pleasure to see you guys once again here at the college basketball tip-off show, powered by WagerTalk.com. We just talked some college football. The playoffs are here, and I'd certainly encourage you guys, if you didn't get a chance to hang with us there, check it out. The link is in the description. Teddy, Brian Leonard, Ross Benjamin laying out a whole lot of bets for you in these playoff games. So good stuff there. And today, without the biggest slate of games in college hoops, we did manage to find a couple of the ones that are certainly worth breaking down as we welcome back in Brian Leonard, ready to go here, putting out fires all night, Brian. But he is here, strong, ready to go on the college basketball tip-off show. And you guys know it. Say it with me. Double R, 1L, Steve Merrill, ready to roll in college hoops. And shout out to Titan CT, Big Daddy back in the house. Always a pleasure to see you guys. I feel like it was just 6 minutes ago. We were all hanging out in the chat room. All right, gentlemen, let's go. Two big games on the card here today we're talking about. One of them involves the Johnnies. St. John's taking on Providence, 8 o'clock here tonight. I am seeing 5.5s seem to be. There were some 6s available, 142 as the total seems to be coming down. Brian Leonard, let me start with you here. 5.5 for the Johnnies, even 6. Are you trusting the Johnnies in this spot to be able to win this by margin?
Well, they're 9-2 on the season. Their losses came against Baylor by a point and Georgia by 3 points, both on neutral court. So this is a very good team. Obviously, Hall of Fame coach. But it's the first true road game of the season for St. John's. Providence padded their early season slate with a very weak opposition. I don't think that prepared them so far for what they've done lately. They haven't been able to step up in class. They've lost 5 of 7 as of late, playing only one true home game over the last month. But Bryce Hopkins, he's their best player from a statistical standpoint. He's listed as questionable right now with a knee injury. He came down with a knee injury a couple games ago. I don't know if he's going to be back or not. The line really hasn't moved to tell me that he will or not. So at this point, I'm leaning St. John's. If he doesn't play, I would want to be by the computer real quick so he can get him before this thing hits 7 if he doesn't play. But maybe, it's in a part of the country where Steve lives and he knows a little bit more about it. So maybe he could fill us in a little bit on the injury. But St. John's has been a team that's been very good. But I do have a concern with this being their first true road game.
So interesting trivia here, Merrill. Way back when, Rick Pitino, his first real head coaching job, major head coaching job. Providence.
Yeah.
In fact. Yes, Providence. And
Brian and I were professional cappers back. We were both in this industry in the 90s when he was there. I started in 96, and he was still there at that point, I believe. So, yeah, it's been a while.
Before he transferred. Yeah, 87, he made it to the Final Four with Providence. You know who his starting all-star guard was? How does Billy Donovan sound? Ever heard of him?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's
Coach
right.
Billy Donovan
I
was
wouldn't have
his
remembered
starting
that,
guard.
but I did know that, yes.
They made it to the Final Four. I was down in New Orleans. And there was more Providence fans than any other team.
Yep.
That's
correct.
Really came to show. Yeah.
Yep, and he was a big part of that. Now he gets to beat the living snot out of him tonight, Merrill, as the St. John's head coach. But I'm already seeing in the chat room, we got a bunch of guys in here looking at maybe Providence. Providence first half, Providence full game. What are you thinking here, Merrill?
Yeah, so, one thing about WagerTalk is we put a lot of free plays up, so check it out on a daily basis. And this is actually my free play of the day. I've got a strong NBA best bet for Friday night, and this was my top opinion in college hoops. The injury situation is why I left it off the best bet card. A little bit of uncertainty there. But I like this matchup. Providence is one of the slowest teams in the country. They play in the 330s in tempo. St. John's likes to play fast. Now, their tempo rating's not as fast as it's been in years past. They were like second or third in the country a couple years ago, but they're still going to play fast. We know the style they want to play. So this really comes down to, can Providence slow the game down? I think home teams can dictate the tempo a little bit better. Brian pointed out St. John's first true road game of the year, so I don't think that bodes well as far as trying to increase the speed here. Side total are probably somewhat correlated. I like Providence +6. There's some 5.5s out there. There's also 6s, so shop around. And the total's dropped a little bit from 143.5 down to 142. I like Providence +6 in this game, and by default, I would probably lean under too, because I think side total correlated. The only way Providence can compete in this game is if they slow it down and make it somewhat ugly.
Yeah, I mean, the Johnnies, to your point, Merrill, 85 points a game. They're shooting better than 49% from the field. Yeah, I mean, it's but Bryce Hopkins dealing with knee issues for Providence. He's only been limited to 3 games. He was actually held out last Saturday in that loss to the Bonnies. So they are saying 50-50 he goes tonight. He's a big part of what Providence is hoping to get done here. But the Johnnies at 8 o'clock tonight are going to be in prime time. By the way, anybody know who won that year, the national championship in '87 when he went to the Final Four? I'm asking because the chat room seems to think they know.
1987. 88. Danny Manning was either 88 or 89. So who was 87? Was it a Syracuse team? Was it Boeheim for some reason?
Oh,
why do I think Syracuse?
Syracuse was in the Final Four along with UNLV, Providence, and the Indiana Hoosiers.
I think Boeheim might have won it in '87. I don't know why I would know that either.
Or Indiana. Was it Indiana?
Indiana won.
Was it Kurt Smart? Was it Smart's team?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Smart, Smart hit the game winner.
Yep, hit that game winner. Yep, absolutely. Shout out to Titan CT who says, I don't remember what I had for dinner last night. That's why you have us, Titan CT. And it was takeout.
He had meatloaf last night, didn't he?
Do you go loaf? You can't go wrong with a good loaf on Thursday night. Yes, Titan CT 3 days late says Indiana. Very nice, Titan CT. We've got you, though.
Man, they beat Syracuse by 1. I'm shocked that I even said Syracuse. I don't know why I remembered Syracuse. They lost by a point. I was pretty damn close. I'm looking at it now.
I'm impressed here. Titan CD, here's a hint. You had mushrooms for dinner last night, didn't you? Let's talk another game if we can, guys. This should be a whole lot of fun as we've got, again, not the biggest slate in college hoops, but there are a couple of games here that we've been looking at, including Dayton taking on Cincinnati here now. This is kind of a rematch. They played this game a year ago, I believe, Brian Leonard, and Dayton ended up beating the snot out of them in the second half. Cincinnati's got a lot of the same guys back that were on that team here. Dayton barely squeaked by your UNLV running Rebels a couple of nights ago, but they had that game against Marquette earlier. What is this? The third game now on the road that they're going to have to pull something out here. Do they do it against Cincinnati?
Yeah, this is listed as a neutral site game, but it is being played in Cincinnati. It's just not on the regular home court. Dayton survived against UNLV 3 days ago to my dismay because I think I was on this show and I wanted no part of UNLV. They made UNLV look pretty good in what was the sandwich situation. They'd beaten Marquette before that, 66-65 win. And when it's all said and done, Dayton will have gone 14 games without playing a true road contest. This is about as close as they'll get there before the calendar turns. Their first true road game doesn't come until January, which is very strange. The Bearcats own an 8-1 record, but they failed to cover their last 4 straight games. They're underperforming as of late, but they do have Grambling State on deck. So I think the Flyers are going to get their full attention, not only because of that, but as you mentioned, they lost that game. I think they had a lead in that game, and they blew it in the second half. This will be a battle of the Dayton offense, which ranks 13th, against the Bearcat defense, which ranks 6th in the country. Both teams prefer the slowdown pace, but Cincinnati has shown the ability to run a little bit. We do have some concerns about the weaker Bearcat schedule, as Villanova and Xavier are the best teams they played so far. That said, I really like this Cincinnati defense, playing in revenge, playing at a home neutral site, let's just call it that. I think the line's fair. I lean with Cincinnati in this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's situationally, Merrill, not great for Dayton here, who started to wear down a little bit in that game against UNLV. But Cincinnati's off a pretty big win too, off of Xavier, I believe, who is their arch nemesis. So what happens in this game? Who do you trust in order to get the revenge? Do you trust Cincinnati?
I don't have a play in this game, but I'd actually probably lean Dayton, and I'll give a few reasons. Brian talked about the schedule. That is something that jumped out to me. Is Cincinnati's in the bottom 300s in schedule strength this year, where Dayton's in the top 80, top 90. And I do think when you're playing quality opponents, it helps to have played maybe a tougher schedule, and especially in what should be a tight game tonight. And if it's a tight game, also, yes, defense everyone thinks wins championships, but as Brian also said, Dayton's the much better offensive team. And the one thing that would concern you with Cincinnati laying the number here is their horrendous free throw shooting, 62% on the season. And in this price range, 2.5, 3, 3.5, free throws could definitely come into play. And Dayton, meanwhile, if they have a slight lead late, they could probably extend the lead. They're hitting 82% from the charity stripe. So you've got one of the best shooting teams in the country against one of the weakest, at least free throw shooting teams. Dayton's just a really good offensive team overall. They're hitting 50% almost from the field, 43% from three. So you got a better defense in Cincinnati versus the better offense. I'll lean towards the dog with the better offense here, Dayton +3. Would not disagree with the under here. We have seen some sharp money coming on the total, dropping it from 138.5 down to 136.5. And as Brian pointed out, both teams play below average tempo. The only concern I'd have with the under, though, is that they're both pretty efficient offensively, especially Dayton. But once again, the pace will be pretty slow. I would think the under makes some sense as well.
Looking at the under in this one, two pretty good defenses. I think the game certainly means more to Cincinnati for that point, though, Merrill, right? A Cincinnati team whose tournament resume to this point doesn't exactly jump off the page, but a win against Dayton would go a long, long way. So maybe a little desperation out of Cincinnati. That usually means more defense. So the under for me as well in this one here. Shout out to Jason Baumgarten in the house. Wants to know where his prize is. He was the one that actually asked a question about who was in the Final Four that year in 1987 and who ended up winning it. But we will definitely get you some of Titan CT's mushrooms from last night. I understand he's got a few left over. Big shout out also to you guys hanging out in the chat room. Michael Fellows, good to see you there. Michael's talking about some cross-sport parlays, the Johnny's money line as well as Notre Dame money line here tonight. Interesting approach on that one here. We do have another couple of games here on the card that are going to be interesting. No, Trig is not here, so we are absolutely not talking about Siena. However, App State taking on North Texas, I think, is another interesting one here, guys. Simply because when you watch North Texas play, Bri, it's a cure for insomnia. It might be the slowest, most boring game that you've ever seen. Not a whole lot of up and down here, but App State, they've shown they can hang and they can play with just about anybody. I think I'm seeing App State money hit the marketplace. What do you think of this one?
I don't want any part of App State here. If you take a look at their record, and this is one of the problems about just looking at records. They're 6-5 on the season. Their victories have come against St. Andrews Presbyterian, Queens, Sam Houston State, Colgate, Mid-Atlantic Christian, and some team, I think it's a fake name, William and Mary.
Awful. Awful.
They only won by 3 against a guy and a girl. I mean, this is not a very good team. And I say that because that's Steve's team. But they have not looked well on the road. They lost by 31 against Wisconsin. Lose by 15 to Wilmington. And they just lost by 6 to Louisiana. I don't want much part of this team right here. When you look at the Evan Maya stats, their offensive rank is 291st in the country. You take a look at their opponent rank. They've played 162, which is a little bit lesser than what North Texas's rank so far. And from a defensive standpoint, Appalachian State is not bad at 116, but that's what North Texas does. They rank 38th in defense. They've been very good. And when you take a look at their stats all the way down, everybody, they don't have any superstar players, but everybody they have is a little bit better than anybody the Appalachian State has. And, that's why you're laying the 12 or whatever here with North Texas. And that's the way I would take a look at this one. They come in with that 7-3 record. But, they can be beaten. They lost on the road to High Point. Utah State, not a bad team. They lost to that on a neutral, and they lose at McNeese State. But they've been very good at home, and they have played a lot of home games so far, undefeated on the season at home. But they, other than some of the teams they played, they're not very good either. It's very similar in that regard. But if I'm going to play it, I get the defensive team playing at home, and I would prefer the favorite in this one.
So I got to ask you, Merrill, are you going to sit there and let him make fun of William and Merritt?
No, I was just going to say, would a fake basketball team give out T-shirts? I mean, come on now.
Look at it.
Santa
He's
Claus.
got the
Give out that T-shirt.
W&M. Very nice. Very nice outfit.
What's incredible
Love
is
this.
that in the time that Brian broke that down, I was able to get the button shirt off, put the T-shirt on, and then sit back down. I'm good like that, Brian.
You are outstanding, my friend.
Good thing you didn't say something about a football team. I would have to show the boxer shorts. No, actually, I don't. I do have some old Georgetown boxers from the 80s. I was a big East guy back in the 80s in Northern Virginia, so I do have some
I thought you were going to tell us about your brown underwear.
Oh, no.
Yes, luckily we're not talking about your Cleveland Browns, or I would have had to.
You guys are
show you my
already
pants, which are
hitting.
brown. Oh, my God. I'm hitting.
Oh, good Christ. Turn it off. You guys are both hitting the skids here. All right, let me ask you a question, Merrill.
Sure.
If we can be honest. Such a slow pace, right? They're not a great shooting team, North Texas, but they take a lot of threes here. And it's kind of made up for the fact they get a lot of turnovers. They play defense, not a great 2-point shooting team, but they do take a whole lot of 3-pointers here. And the problem is App State, this is a big number for a team that defends the 3 pretty well in this one here. So it just feels like this is a big number asking North Texas to win by margin in this one in a game that's lined, 123 and a half?
Yeah, total hasn't moved at all. 123 and a half across the board, opener, current line. And that's the first thing that jumped out to me, Joe, is these are two of the slower teams. They're both in the 300s in tempo. So it's under or pass for me on this game. And that also makes you hesitant to lay 12 with North Texas. If it's going to be a low-scoring game in the 120s or less, it's a little tougher to win by margin. And the other that does jump out to me is that Appalachian State 3-point defense. And they beat William & Mary by only 3 as a 4-point favorite back in November, but they were actually up by 17 in the second half of that game. And then the Tribe made a big comeback, almost got the win. But that was a bad matchup for William & Mary because they rely heavily on the 3. And on the season now, Appalachian State's given up, I believe, like 27.5% from 3 against teams that average like 33.5%. So I do think at this point, 10 games in, we can say this is a good perimeter defense. And North Texas has taken a good amount of their shots, like over 40% of their field goal attempts come from 3-point range. So, yeah, you maybe lean dog for that reason as well, plus 12. But I think the under 123.5 makes sense. 2 very slow teams and a good defensive matchup for Appalachian State.
All right, speaking of 2 very good teams, I saw the question coming in, Titan CT, I believe. Yale, Akron. I happen to know somebody that knows Akron very well. And I'm sure Steve Merrill will have something to say about the Akron Zips here.
Just going to say rubber.
Yes, you have Yale, who I believe was picked to finish either 1 or 2 in Ivy League. Akron, actually, I think they were expecting big things from that team this year in the MAC. But this is a neutral site game. And I have no idea why they're in El Paso, but that's where they're at here. And trying to figure that one out as to why Yale and Akron would head to El Paso, I don't know. But I know the Zips are 0-3 on the road away from home here. I also know they just got crushed in another neutral site game. What was it, Sunday by Milwaukee? But, the expectations for these 2 teams are big here, Bri. What do you think of the Zips and the Yale Bulldogs here tonight?
Well, you mentioned El Paso, and that may be what I end up doing on this game is I think the line is basically what I thought it was going to be. When you take a look at the opponent ranks, they're both very similar, 154 for Akron, 162 for Yale. Yale's got the better offense, ranking 79th in the country. And overall, my power ratings have them a little bit better. But the line is where I thought it was going to be. It's 5.5, and it's in that range. It's been bet up like 2 points. So Yale's taking the money. Both teams are very similar. It's just something where Yale's the better defensive team. So I kind of leaned with that, but not enough to make a play here. It's a pretty weak card overall in college basketball, at least for myself today.
What do you do, Merrill, when you look at, like, let's say a Ken Palm ranking here? And I think Ken Palm has the Bulldogs 25, 30 spots better than anything the Zips are bringing to the table here. And they're getting a ton of money, too. I mean, listen, the public is not running to the window to bet Yale, unless I'm missing something here, Steve. And how much is too much here? I mean, it's what, a 2 or 3 point move here, Merrill, at this point?
Yeah, speaking of the Ken Palms, they're 32 spots ahead. But the Ken Palms have the luck index, and we talk about this so much. We have fun with it. It's not really a handicapping factor. Basically, what the luck index just means your straight up win-loss record should be better or worse than it is. It's usually like close wins or losses. But it does jump out to you when you see Yale is 363rd in luck out of 364 teams. So the Bulldogs are the second unluckiest team in college basketball so far this season, and they're off to a 5-5 start. So what that's telling you is they should be like 7-3 or better probably. And I think it does somewhat come into play when the point spread, as it was earlier today, is right around 3, 2.5, 3. As Brian said, we've seen this line go from 3.5 up to 4.5 now. We even see a 5 at one of the sharper offshore books. And like you said, Joe, this is not the public betting a Yale-Akron basketball game on Friday afternoon. So sharp money is on Yale. I wouldn't disagree. I think they're the better team in this game. These neutral court tournaments or semi-neutral courts are weird. You know, they usually, I didn't check this one, but it's probably a 3-game in 3-day scenario where they'll play either Jackson State or UTEP tomorrow, then the other one Sunday. William & Mary played in one of these down in Winthrop last month. And you do get some strange results in these, so tread lightly. These first nights, especially with 2 neutral court teams, you can probably get a true handicap. But then tomorrow and Saturday, Sunday, you got to kind of really dig into the minutes, how the other games played out. And it's one of the reasons I kind of stay away from these neutral court tournaments. I mean, look at Connecticut. They lost all 3 straight down in Maui or the Bahamas, wherever that was, last month in November. And obviously, they're one of the best teams in the country still.
I got to ask you guys a question, because the thing that popped out to me in this Delaware taking on St. Peter's game, unless something has changed, Bri, you have the numbers in front of you. St. Peter's games have always been first one to 60 wins. And yet I'm looking at a total at 142.5, somewhere in that ballpark. Now, Delaware looks like they've been in a few more up-tempo games here, but St. Peter's has been in a lot more overs than they've been in unders here. Is something changing here? Because how in the world can you look at St. Peter's and be like, yeah, give me something in the mid-140s to 150 here? It's very strange.
Yeah, well, I've got St. Peter's offense ranked 268th and the defense at 156. So they may have just played a lot of other teams that run, because their true tempos at 351, whereas Delaware's at 40. So you know what teams want to do. Delaware wants to run. St. Peter's wants to slow it down here. From a opponent average rank, they both played pretty weak opponents so far, very similar. From a player rank, they're very similar here also. St. Peter's -3 is basically what I'm coming up with here. And they're at 2.5. So, and there are a couple threes out there. So I'm just not seeing much of value there. If this is going to be correlated, I'm sure if Delaware wants to get out and run, it's going to go over. If St. Peter's dictates it's going under, problem is, before the game starts, we don't know who's going to dictate the pace.
Right. Yeah, well, and Merrill, what is your always thought with this? Where, I mean, Delaware, top 40 pace team, St. Peter's takes them an hour and a half to watch 60 minutes. Who's got the better edge here? Because they have played in far more overs than unders, so it doesn't appear like they're imposing their defensive will here.
Yeah, those recent ones that went over 135, 137. We had a 154 against Fairleigh before that. They did put up 116 points against St. Elizabeth. I don't know if the other 4 players showed up, if it was just St. Elizabeth. But, I mean, you have to be careful early in the season looking too much into these single games. They're still one of the 10 slowest paced teams in the country. They're at home. They're a favorite. So that means they should be able to control the tempo. That's something else, we point out about slower teams can slow down a fast team than vice versa. But if you're a home favorite, you're technically the slightly better team. You should be able to dictate your tempo. So we have seen some sharp money coming in the under from 143 down to 141, 140 and a half now. So I think the under is the play here. And I'll give you a free play for next month instead of a free play for today. Delaware and William and Mary will play at some point next month in the CAA conference games. That'll be a high scoring over. 2 of the fastest paced teams in the country. Mark that one. That line will probably go up several points during the day when it comes out next month.
Well, I got to tell you, I did not expect to get a William and Mary
How do you
play
like that?
for
I gave you a play for
January
next
2025. God damn,
Right.
Brian, we're really pushing the limits here. That's actually impressive. Also, I don't know if you guys have a game or a bet here, but Brian, if you do, yell it out and tell the folks what you have locked and loaded here heading into a lot of football, a lot of hockey, NBA card here tonight. What do you got for everyone?
Just to let everybody know, I'm undefeated so far in 2025.
Well done.
He hasn't won a game
I'll go
either.
back and I'll go back.
I'll
and
play
use
devil's
that,
advocate. Brian Leonard hasn't won a game the entire year of 2020.
Yeah, well, there you go.
How
There you
good does
go.
that sound?
Battling for those sales. The Cincinnati game we talked about earlier, that's probably the best on the board for me. But to be totally honest with you, I passed in college basketball today. I do have one play up in hockey, one play up in college football, and a big 4% play in the NFL going this weekend, and swept the board in the NFL again on an 80% run. It's just been terrific in pro football for me, but everything's going well. Slow start in hockey, but I got a win last night, and hopefully I'll start turning it around. But that's where I made all my money for the last decade or so. So really excited about the specials we've got going on right now. You buy the entire month of December, entire month of January, and get the rest of December for free. A lot of good specials out there. They're all over the website. Find something that fits into what you enjoy, what you like, whether it be an individual sport or buying all of our plays. But it's much cheaper than buying on an individual basis, of course.
Love it. All right. Yes, definitely take advantage there. Merrill, you've already given out a 2025-26 best bet, which is always fun to see. But what do you have locked and loaded on? We got a playoff game here tonight, college football. We got a couple of Saturday NFL games. I know your video's up, locked, loaded, ready to roll. What are you looking at here right now for this weekend?
Yeah, if you want another free college play, I do have a free opinion in that Notre Dame Indiana playoff game tonight at 8 Eastern. A little bit of a line move as well in that game. It's gone from 7 now to 6.5 in some spots, but there are 7. So if you like Indiana, you get 7. If you like Notre Dame, you get -6.5. I'll let you know what side I like. It's in a free video right here on WagerTalk TV. Also, a strong NBA best bet for tonight on Friday, an NFL Saturday game best bet posted, an advanced bowl game posted. And don't forget also some college hoops around the corner. I got a free college basketball play for tonight on my page. So check it out. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com, and tons of videos here. I broke down all 4 playoff games, tonight's and also all 3 Saturday games, and a college football top 25 playoff edition video. Also have the NFL Fade the Public this weekend. So click subscribe, click that bell here and instant alerts on WagerTalk TV. And free college basketball play for tonight is Providence +6. I think they slow things down here against the St. John's team. It's playing their first true road game, wants to play more up-tempo. Look for an ugly one here, but I think it'll enable Providence to cover as the 6-point home dog tonight at 8 Eastern.
All right, love that. I'm going to give you a best bet here tonight, guys. I also gave you Mary Mac yesterday on the show, telling you who in the hell is St. Mary's to be laying 21 points when they've only covered 1 game by that number, and that was against USC that pretty much quit and only played 2 people. So Merrimack hits, and they almost pulled the outright upset last night, which was great. I am going to go back to the well. Trig on the show yesterday told you about Norfolk State against Alabama State in that game at the Mohegan Sun. Well, now they're taking on another team, Grambling State, that they should have no problem beating here. Grambling State, at this point, can hit water if they fell out of a boat. 4 of 24. 4 of 24 from the Mohegan Sun from 3. They lost to Delaware State 73-60. I like the direction Norfolk State is heading. I love this kid, Brian Moore, their guard, former Murray State guard, in fact. I think he's a star. I think they are going to have no problem clearing this number against Grambling State, who just can't hit any shots. And there you go, guys. That'll do it. We've got college basketball, college football. We've got NFL. We do have a couple of NBA games. Also, we're going to come up and break down OKC versus Miami. What side do you want there? I'm being told in the chat room there is a lock of the century in the NBA tonight, so I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about it. We'll see you in about 30 minutes here, bottom of the hour for the NBA tip-off show. Until then, best of luck with the plays. And I'm being told Steve Merrill will be auctioning off that William and Mary outfit he's wearing right now. That, too, might very well be coming. You guys are going to want to get in on this. Merrill's autographing it. He'll give you a strand of hair. Great stuff coming your way, guys. You don't want to miss it. Enjoy tonight. Enjoy the games. We'll see you again next week on the College Basketball Tip-Off Show.